All right, hey guys, what's up? Scott here, and today I want to do a quick video for you that will be a live demo of the Listflex system. Every week we have more people asking us for information on if Listflex can help solve their lead issues, or they ask us to jump on live calls and do demos, which is great. Happy to do it. But I thought I would just do a quick video that would cover a lot of the basics of our system, some of the more elementary things that people wonder about when they're looking for a better way to automate everything in their life related to leads. So with Listflex, the first thing that I kind of tell people is that it doesn't have anything to do with affiliate marketing. There's no click tracking, there's no impression tracking, pixels. This is all about your leads, whether they're from your forms, whether you're buying them from a third party, someone's providing, you files of leads, and you will have a whole list of things that you want to do. You want to run suppressions and filters and clean and validate and make sure they're the right country and all kinds of things. And then on the back, maybe you want your leads going to a call center, one or two or three or four different email marketing destinations or companies that will help you make more money with those leads. Or maybe you're just running a lead company or a lead agency or brokering data, and you want to see leads flow in and flow out seamlessly and never have to touch anything, but always deliver the perfect lead. And that in essence, that's Listflex. It's exactly what our system is built to do: automate your entire lead life. The affiliate stuff, that's not us. So with that being said, if you are generating a lot of leads, you have your own offers, you're buying data from third parties, and you want to seamlessly integrate it in one or multiple destinations, then this tutorial is probably going to be for you. All right, with that being said, what you're looking at right now is the dashboard. So the dashboard in our system is kind of your sanity check every day. You're going to wake up, you're going to log in, you're going to look, and you're going to look at your active lists, how many leads you have coming in on those lists, how many are in their total, and who sent you those leads. And what that looks like is, here we're looking at my cursor here, you can have different lists where your leads are segmented or siloed so that they're neatly packaged and available for you now or later. This number right here just represents how many you have in total for that list. And then over here is how many leads have come in, how many attempts today, how many were filtered out because of rules you've created, and then how many were accepted successfully. And then over here is the vendor. In our system, a vendor is someone that is going to provide you data. So there's an in-house account, which you can see here. You're going to have your own offers. You're probably going to be buying leads that you're going to own, that are going to be yours. And in that case, you don't have to report tracking or anything back to anybody as far as rev share deals or buying leads or accepting and rejecting. So because it's your data, you'll set up an in-house account, and you will set up lists underneath your in-house account. But there's also going to be situations where you're buying data or you have relationships with companies that are going to be generating or giving you leads, and they would like transparency. They want to know why you're blocking leads and for what reason. In that case, you would set up a third party, somebody else that's going to be giving you leads or generating you leads either in your forms or through files or whatever. And when you create that, then you can create lists underneath that vendor. Now each list will have its own rules that will allow you to pick and choose what you're going to accept into your system. But what it looks like when you have those set up is your lists are displayed, how many leads are coming in, how many were successful, how many were blocked. Here's an example of filters that caught 5 leads. There were some phone numbers missing, and in that specific list, phones required. And then the other one is duplicate. So that's essentially a snapshot, your sanity check every day. There's other things going on the dashboard, like recent orders that you've created in your system, seeding activity, which is automated email, an email seeding process that we have in our system. Then we have idle lists up here, which are lists that just haven't had any leads in the last 30 days, and then who's getting leads, which is just some reports on which clients or destinations you're sending leads to on any given day. But that's the snapshot of the dashboard. It's your sanity check every day. Now, like I said, every one of these lists has its own rules. So let's assume that you are going to be buying some leads from a third party, and let's say they're already set up and it's Robert. We're going to click on Robert's name. He's a vendor. And inside his vendor account, you can already see that there's 2 lists for him when they were added. Is there a rev share? What vertical are they in? How many leads has Robert already provided? You can upload them manually, but up here under more options, we're going to want to set up a new list. And what's really cool about Listflex is each time you create a new list, you can assign filters to it that are appropriate for that list, because a solar lead is going to have different rules than maybe a debt lead or an online education lead, or a 10-cent email lead that, is brokered. You're going to have different rules on what you want to accept and import into the system. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up this list, and we'll just call it test list. Let's just say you're buying the leads at 10 cents. The other cool thing about our system is that we have rev share, meaning there's a lot of people that put deals together in our industry on rev shares. If you enter payments, and there's a full-blown accounting system tied to our, tied to Listflex, you can track and manage and have the system do all the work for you on all the calculations, on what you would owe this vendor for their rev share. But in this case, we'll say we're buying leads. I'm going to say that these leads are online education. Online education leads tend to be a higher quality lead, dollars, $2, $3 for the cheap leads, and 20, 30, 40, 50 for the, the higher end leads. We have the ability to choose how to sell the lead. And how to sell the lead basically means that you get to pick if you want the system to just randomly assign the lead to orders that are set up, and at no specific algorithm. If it comes in, it goes out, up to however many times, or unlimited. But with online education and some of the higher end industries where leads are more expensive, a lot of people that use Listflex like the advanced rules, where you can have the lead leave the system one time. Let's say we call it exclusive, right? You sell a lead exclusively one time. Then maybe you want to lock it so that no other companies can get that lead. After that 7th day, the lead will come available again. You'll sell it to a second pass company, and then maybe after that, you want to set it up to be unlimited so that it can be sold and used forever for any reason. You can go back 6 months from now and dip back into that list, pull those leads for somebody who needs a custom audience, who needs emails, who needs phones, whatever. But the cool thing here is you have the ability to sell an exclusive lead, lock it, and then that way you don't have people stepping on each other's toes, when they're, if you're selling leads, or if you have, multiple destinations and it's a sensitive, situation. If it's not sensitive, great, no big deal. Put basic rules on, decide how many times you want to sell it. And, as you have customers or destinations for that lead, it goes out. For some of the bigger companies that use Listflex, they have internal sales reps that they'll track. And same with this for referring. Someone refers you this specific vendor. You have the ability to track and pay them commissions. But here's where it kind of gets fun. So everything that I'm going to go through for you right now is going to it essentially happens in under a second. A whole bunch of filters, scrubs, checks, appends, all of this happens in under a second. And the reason I say that is because people will run us on their forms. They will put us on their forms that they're running live. And at the bottom of this, I'll show you where if the lead passes all these filters and checks, it'll send them to a success redirect or a fail if it fails the redirect. But let me go through all of the filters and options and choices that you have when you are bringing data in. Simple scrub, this is your master suppression file. Elite scrub, that's mine, or the Listflex system, about 11 million records, total garbage. If you want to leverage that, you can. Level 1 scrub, this is a spam trap lookup. If you're doing a lot of email marketing, that'll apply to you. And then we have level 2 and level 3. These are paid services, but they are the ability to validate a phone or email. The difference between level 2 and level 3 is that level 3 does a lot more than level 2. And we've got these handy little question marks over here to help you see what these different things do. We also have a TCPA scrub. If for any reason you're collecting phone numbers and you want to limit, any known litigators or the people that have been involved in TCPA lawsuits from coming in, you would check yes to that. We can do U.S. Postal Service validation. You can create lists of domains that you want to block that are, again, known litigators or anything weird. And then after all of those filters, you have GeoComplete, where if you have a zip or an IP, what we're going to do is add the city, state, and country for you. Sometimes, when you're running just a first name and email submit, it's great. You're going to have the IP, obviously, but maybe you want the record to be a little bit, more full, and you want that city, state, and country added. great, you can do it. You can filter out and block leads that have bad words as the first name or last name. We can add the gender for you, about a 60% match rate roughly, based on the first name. Append missing fields. This is a really cool feature that is free again, but it's a scenario where our system will go back and look and to see if you've ever gotten the lead before from any list. And if you have, and it has new information or information you don't have yet, it adds it to the lead. So the example that I give people is, imagine you're running an email submit and you've gotten that lead from somebody else or at some time previously. The system will grab all of the other information and then it'll add it to that lead. So instead of it just being an email, now you have a record that has quite a bit more information depending on what you've already accepted previously. We have a third-party append service where you have the ability to add information to your leads. And again, in real time, all of this happening in real time if you choose. If you're running an email submit and you decide that you want to see if you can append the first name and the phone number, then you very simply can come in here and get rid of anything that you don't want. Let's say you don't need these things, and you can see if our system can append first name and phone and country and IP for you. Again, all happening in real time. Here's the big one, and it's the dedupe filter. The dedupe filter is huge because if you're running your own offers, you're going to have different rules than you are if you're buying data. If you're buying data, maybe you're going to run your filter against the whole database in 90 days. If it's just your offer and you don't really want to block leads because you're paying for them, whatever the case is, you might run your filters might be a little bit more loose so that you have more data coming in. But it prohibits people from continually filling out the form over and over and over again, and it potentially going out to either your destinations or your clients. And then we have specific lists where if you have really sensitive data and it needs to just bounce against certain lists, you have the ability to do that. And then how far back do you want to go on any of those? And then you can require certain fields. If you're running your own forms, this is pretty straightforward. However, if you're working with a third party and you want to make sure that nothing kind of falls through the cracks and that every lead at a minimum has a certain amount of information, you can at a minimum check these boxes. Now your partners can still send you all of these other options, but the lead will be blocked if any of these that are checked aren't there. You can require which countries the leads come from, and then there's 3 different ways that Listflex will allow you to sell a lead or have the lead leave the system. Import, priority, and bidding. Import basically means the lead has passed all the filters and checks, it's accepted. And then priority and bidding, the system will look for clients and orders and it will deliver those leads to them. However, if no clients or you have nowhere to send the lead ends up getting rejected. And then what I mentioned earlier is at the bottom of this, we have redirect after import. So if your lead is successful, it passes all these rules, all these checks, all these filters, and you bring it into the system, in real time, you can success or fail redirect that lead. So all of these things, as I mentioned, happen in under a second. If you're running us live on your form, great. You can do all these checks and all these filters, bounce it off of as little or as much of this as you want. You can do real-time appending, validating, cleaning, make sure it's the right country. And if this one down here, the redirect after, this is like a ClickFunnels scenario. A lot of ClickFunnels guys use this where they'll success redirect it to a pixeled path. And if it fails, meaning it's a bad email, it's the wrong country, it's any of these filters, duplicate, it'll fail redirect to a path that isn't pixeled. So that's setting up a test list. I'm not going to save this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the vendor that we were kind of creating that list for. And up here in the top right, a couple different options, but what's noteworthy is API instructions. Once you create a list for a vendor, our system automatically spits out that that API for you. Very, very simple, straightforward documentation. If you click to download our documentation, we have 2 pages, not 60, not 30, not 100. Some of these companies that have API documentation that's in 50 pages long, it's a little much. Ours is 2 pages. It's very simple for you to integrate with Listflex and get your leads in. via API, or I showed you back here on the on the vendor. You can just simply click here and upload a file, map the fields, and it'll take you a few seconds. But so once you have a list set up, you've saved it, you have the API. You can either upload leads manually, or you can just API them in. Once you've done that, you'll see it right here on the dashboard. So that's kind of the front end of the system essentially. Now the back end is kind of what we were talking about. There's different ways that leads can leave the system. So when you go to outgoing posts are going to show you those three ways: imported leads, priority, and bidding. So imported data means the lead has been accepted. Either it passed all the rules and all the filters and checks and great, it's sitting there, or it was accepted through a different priority or bidding. And then all of the different rules, all of the different orders and rules, you can see right here. I'll dig into that a little bit more. Priority, though, is pretty cool, because what priority does is it allows you to manipulate who gets looked at first. So this list is called MLM Company Work From Home Prospects. This data, for example, every time a new lead comes into this list, it's going to check position 1 and see if Sally's taking the lead, or position 2, or position 3 or 4. And if nobody takes the lead, it goes down here to the very last position. And in this case, we have an in-house account, because if you remember what I mentioned earlier, priority and bidding, if a lead doesn't find a home, if it's not sold, the system rejects the lead. It doesn't bring it in because there's nowhere to send it. So some of our clients will put an in-house account, or what we call a catch-all basket, at the bottom, so that none of the leads hit the floor. They want to bring them in and use them now or use them later. But this is kind of like a waterfall, or what they call cascade. And the cool thing is, over here there's a wrench, and I'm going to go into this in a moment, but every one of these orders is going to have its own rules. The easy example is, imagine you're working with 5 companies that are purchasing solar leads, and they all have specifics that you have to abide by, either times of the day, days of the week that they're accepting leads, or zip codes that they're accepting or blocking. There's all kinds of things that you have to follow when you're selling those leads, and I'll show you that. But all of these can have their own rules, and you can choose who gets looked at first. So that's the priority side. Bidding is where, again, this is called new home buyers, but imagine if it were solar. It would analyze all of these orders simultaneously, and it would only check the order that's giving you the highest probability of the highest profit margin first, and then second and third and so forth. And again, going back to solar, imagine you have Alice here, or let's see down here, Buzz Lightyear. He's paying $60 a lead. Well, let's say he's only accepting, I don't know, 1 zip code in Southern California. Well, if that zip code comes in, you surely want him to get looked at first to see if he's going to take the lead. And if he doesn't, it'll bump down here to Jiminy Cricket and so forth. And because he's paying $55 a lead, as long as the lead matches what the order details are, it'll always optimize this to make sure that you make the most money. And that's bidding. And priority is different positions versus bidding that will simultaneously look at all the orders. And in imported, it's genuinely just creating orders that as leads come in, they go out. Or you can put delays on leads where it's an hour delay, or a week delay, or a 30-day delay. Lots of different ways that you can manipulate and do things with orders under this scenario, because the leads are already kind of sitting in the system. All right, so with that, let's look at some of the stuff that you can do inside of an order. So we'll click on order details, and for this specific order, you get to choose a variety of things. So internal view only, this is a setting that is for internal use. So if you are, if you're generating orders for a specific circumstance and you don't want that order visible publicly through either the client or the vendor back office, then you would choose yes there. Real-time post basically means that the order is going to follow the rules that you set up for it below. And if you chose no on that, it would just deliver the leads every night at midnight. The next thing you get to do is you get to pick the integration. So if your destination or your company or your client has a list or a variety of destinations, this order, you can choose whether, whether it's a custom API or an ESP or whatever the case is, you get to choose where this order is going to deliver leads to. If you have multiple orders for a client, you get to choose the priority of those. Maybe there's one specific order for your client that you want to see get filled first, and then have a look at the others. You can do that here. The cutoff date, this is the time that the system is operating off of for this order. So for example, the cutoff date would give you the ability to go back if your client or your destination or you decided, I'd actually like all the leads from Monday through today API'd, over, and then as leads come in, they go out. So it gives you the ability to kind of tell the system to go back and pick up leads from a specific time, pull those through, deliver them. And then after you deliver them, as leads come in that meet the criteria, it'll deliver those leads. When the lead turns, this is your ability to delay leads, delay when they're sent to either 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, or hours. You can put a delay on those. You can do an overall order cap. So if this order only should only get 1,000 leads, great. You'll only get 1,000. You can do a daily lead cap. The other thing that's popular in our system for ESPs is what we call the delay between posts. So I'm going to show you that if you uploaded 1,000 leads into your system and you decided, well, I want to send them to, we'll say send lane, but I only want to send 100 leads a day. You can use the delay between post throttle to pick up that 1,000 leads that you uploaded into the system by resetting the cutoff date like we just talked about. And then when you use this, it will drip only 100 leads a day into SendLane or any ESP. And this is popular because a lot of guys do move their ESPs, quite often. And this helps them ramp up their new relationships without overloading a system with leads. If you are charging people for data, you can do that here. You can charge them per record. As I mentioned earlier, there's a full-blown accounting system in Listflex. You get to choose the client level dedupe. Now, we talked about deduping when you import leads because you can choose if you want to accept duplicates or not into your system. But client level dedupe says, okay, how many, has this lead ever gone to this client before and how far back? But not only does it look at this order, it looks at any lead you've sent them. So if you have a client that has 3 orders, 3 different lists, and they tell you they don't want any duplicates, this rule will look at all of those leads. Pause order after. This feature is really cool. It allows our system to automatically pause upon choosing 10 or 50, let's say 10 unsuccessful post attempts in a row. So if you're trying to deliver a lead to a client and they're not accepting, in this case, 10 consecutive leads, so they get non-success responses, the system's going to pause this order. It's going to send you an email and it's going to let you know that something's broken. Now, when you come back into this order, at the top, there's post logs and there's lead delivery report. These logs are the logs and the response from your client to your system so that you can quickly, in seconds, you can have a report back to them on, hey, why aren't you guys taking the leads? Or maybe their response is intuitive and helps you understand that you're not sending the IP or something obvious. Then you just would simply come down here and you would add the IP, and now you're sending all the information that they're requiring. Due for seeding, as I showed you on the dashboard, we have a automated email seeding feature. It's free, it's super cool. It allows you to kind of keep tabs on your own email campaigns or that of others. Then you can choose what fields you're sending to the destination or your client. And there's different settings for strict and loose here. Strict being it will never even attempt the lead unless it has a minimum of the checked boxes. Loose means that it will send the checked boxes even if one or more of them are missing. All right, down here you get to choose what list you're going to send to your client or the destination, or you can choose multiple. But here's where you can do a lot of filtering, and I mentioned it earlier, but only ever deliver the perfect lead to your client. And this is where, if you're dealing with an ESP, you're selling leads, you're dealing with call centers, or like I said, solar companies, any company can come to you with any list of rules that they have on what they want or what they need, and you are going to be able to give it to them. And let me show you that. You could decide that they're only going to get leads at certain hours of the day, or maybe certain days of the week. And you could add custom fields to this order. Maybe there's a variety of fields that you're capturing that they're requiring. You can require that it only be from the right country. You could theoretically, if you're collecting it on the front, decide that you're only going to send male or female. You can include or exclude states, area codes, and zip codes. So for example, all the lawsuits come out of California. You could easily just exclude California from this order. Same with area codes, same with zip codes. You can do block domains, lead locking. If you remember when I was setting up that list in the earlier part of this video, a lead can be locked, meaning you can decide that it's not allowed to leave the system. So that you don't have more than one client or destination stepping on that lead if it's a high-end lead. We have the ability for you to turn off that or disregard that if you still need to go in and grab those leads. You can do filtering by custom fields. If you're, again, home improvement and you've got 5 or 6 different custom fields for solar or whatever the case is, maybe there's a specific answer inside of the sunlight question for solar, and you only want those responses going to this client. Great, easy to do, no tech people involved. You just, you choose the filter, and we'll say, let's just do it now. Let's see here, solar, how much shade? And then whatever the answers are, you'd put the answer in there. Okay, really, really simple for you to manipulate and run custom fields if that's important to you. And then for all of our email marketing friends, it's really easy for you to exclude or include ISPs. And what does that look like? Well, if you are dealing with people that are really heavy into email marketing and they say, we can't get Gmail delivered, can you just not send it to us? Sure, we can do that. And you'll just type in gmail.com. And then maybe they say, well, we can't actually get AOL either. Don't send it. So you type in AOL.com and voila, they will not be sent. And then you have post status, which is obvious, and then you have the ability to make copies of orders here and save. But this is one order. Your client could have multiple orders. They could be purchasing multiple lists. Excuse me. They could be sending it to maybe each order is going to go to a different destination on their system. They might have different daily caps on the leads that you're sending them. There might be different rules for what cities and states and things you want to send them. Great. All of it can be managed in real time, on the fly, and that one setting will tell you if there's any issues delivering the leads, and if there are any issues, you're going to get the alert, and these post logs right here are going to display that the response from your client's server. So going back to the dashboard, we have the dashboard that gives you your sanity check, vendors, which are companies, either yourself or third parties that are going to give you leads. Clients are going to be people or destinations or yourself, your in-house account there of where you're going to send leads to. Payments is a portion of our accounting system where you have the ability to type in your payments, put your rev shares in there. You have the ability to tie those payments to orders and have it work like ad budget, which is super cool, where you have the option of all of those orders turning off when the money runs out. Now, if it's a rev share situation, you have a little bit of a different scenario. You enter the payment, and then after you enter the payment, you will tie that rev share payment to a time frame and the orders that apply to that time frame, so that the money you accept or that is reported to you is applied to those leads in that exact window, because you'll have orders that run for months on end, but maybe that payment was just for one specific month. The outgoing post section, which is really simple, it's going to have all your orders, who's getting what leads, how many leads they've gotten so far on this order today, is it paused, is it active. We've got tons of reporting. The list sales report is a full-blown accounting report on every piece of activity happening in your system. Other reports related to importing leads and delivering leads, and list similarities reports, kind of cool. It's sort of like audiences, where it'll take one of your lists and it'll compare it to every other list in your system, which is awesome. So you can kind of get a feel for data if you're bringing it in, get a feel for whether or not it's going to be good, because you're going to be able to see how it matches up against the other lists in your system. There's some other reports in here related to, your cleaning, your appending, any, if there's any return leads in your system, your sales commissions if you have salespeople, and then search records, some really basic stuff here if you got to go dig around and, finding more information on leads. The settings here is pretty cool though. This is where you'd upload your master suppression. You can create groups of blocked domains. You can create custom fields and verticals here. They work together. You create the vertical, let's say it's solar, then you can add custom fields. And when I say add them, this isn't a scenario where you need a technical person. This is a scenario where you can literally create a vertical and custom fields and go back to that vendor in the list and start, accepting any variables, any new fields that you want via API or through, files. You can add your bad words here. You can have the system run on your time zone. Flex ID, which is super awesome if you're familiar with any of the other services that provide IDs on leads. This is kind of like the fingerprint. And Flex ID is going to take screenshots of the lead as it's filling out the form, and it'll tie those screenshots and that whole process to the lead inside your system, so that if you ever need to go back and validate and prove that your lead did fill out the form, you'll have that. And then here's more information on adding referrers and your sales reps, which we covered earlier. So in a nutshell, that is Listflex. I went through a lot of the reports and some of those other settings and things really quickly. But the core of our system is when you're setting up those lists for companies or yourself, you have a lot of flexibility in what you're going to bring in. And then once you bring leads in, you have a lot of flexibility on who gets the leads, when they get them, what rules your destination or your clients have on what they're willing to accept and buy or take at any given time. And all of these things, with maybe the exception of some of the API stuff, all of these things can be done without a technical person. And I was going to just wrap it up here really quickly, but I will show you one more thing. If you are somebody that even has basic technical knowledge or technical skills, and you have a client, again, a client is somebody at a destination where you're going to send leads. Let's say your client is Alice. You click on Alice's name, more options. We're going to go to API integrations. Now this is the client side. On the vendor side, the system automatically spits out the API for you. But on the client side, we make it extremely easy for you to add a new integration. Now there's a couple things here to note. First and foremost, we've already got a good kind of chunk of systems that we automatically can build the API for you and drip the leads, into them at whatever you set up for your orders. But if it's a custom API, you would name the API up here. Let's just say it's MLM. You have the ability to do a regular post, or you have the ability to do a ping. And then all you'll do is you'll add the endpoint. Now the post variables is kind of cool because if your client, let's say your client's post variable for email, like their system accepts it as email, you would do that's their variable right there. Let's just say it's email. And then so that Listflex knows to deliver the email, you would just come over here and click. And then let's say their first name variable, your client's first name variable is fname, and you do fname. Now the endpoint is going to be obviously provided to you from your client, but then you have some other cool stuff that usually involves technical people, but in our case you can do it yourself. Some companies require that the API be URL encoded. You can choose yes or no. You can choose how to send it, post or get. And then the other thing that's really cool is because a lot of destinations are different, is the success response. What response is going to be unique only to a successful lead? Well, sometimes companies return the number 1, or they return success or successfully, or there's any number of things. But the cool thing about how this is set up is, as long as there's any unique variable or content in that response that only comes to you during a successful response from your client or your destination, you would put that in there, and then the system knows that the lead made it in. Because if it doesn't make it, or the system doesn't realize that that it's being accepted, then you have that filter that comes into place where it will pause the order so that you're made aware that there's a problem. All right. So with that is the Listflex system in a nutshell. If you have any questions about it, reach out to your sales rep, or you can reach out to me personally. I'm always available to help out or answer any questions that you have. So with that, that's it. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.